Right. So good afternoon. Welcome to the NEBOSH National General Certificate. We're on lesson 15 today. I look at incident and accident investigation, recording and reporting. And one of the laws they have in the UK for this and what the law says about, reporting and investigating. Not a very long session, so we're going to go straight into it. Of all the slides, there's actually just one main examinable slide. We can come back to that and then we can stress a bit on some well, I don't know if you want me to go through some logistics with you. Maybe I could. Is it a passive pass or logistics? But we could have a look at that, right? Just let me just make a start here and we would go, right? We'll try to see how fast we can finish off and get into that. So the objectives of this session towards the following team, to facilitate meaning towards the following team, what is RIDDOR and the accident book, right? From last week class, what do you want to establish from an accident investigation? Remember, we spoke about the root causes, the immediate and the root causes, techniques of interviewing the witness, interview as soon as possible, don't interrogate, those kind of things. And accident causation would have been last week as well. So there is a law for reporting of injuries, but it's a law for reporting accidents then, right? So the name of the law is the Reporting of Injuries, Diseases, and Dangerous Occurrence Regulation. The year is 2013. What it says, a responsible person must report RIDDOR events. An injury or dangerous occurrence must be reported by the quickest practicable means to the enforcing authority, and a report must be sent within 10 days. Hi, afternoon, by the responsible person. Yeah, go ahead.
We're currently seeing a different screen and not the presentation.
Yeah,
Okay, good.
I was now going to ask if we're supposed to be seeing the PowerPoint.
Yeah, you should be. Well, you should have it printed too, but you should be seeing it too. Are you all seeing anything now?
We're seeing financial reasons.
Yeah, what else not it? Okay, well, how about this one?
Yeah, it says RIDDOR.
Okay, good. Right.
Responsible person must be.
Yeah. Okay, good. All right. So I'm just gonna read all out first. So this is the law in the UK. It says a responsible person must report all RIDDOR events. An injury or dangerous occurrence must be reported by the quickest practicable means to the enforcing authority, and a report must be sent within 10 days by the responsible person on an approved form called F2508. If a personal injury results in 3 or more days absence but does not fall into the category of major, a written report is just required. Occupational diseases must be reported as soon as practicable. Once written notification of the disease has been received, also an approved form must be used F2508A. That must be said. Let me read out all the slides because it's less than 10 slides and we'll come back and sort of emphasize the part for exam, right? So some of the major injuries, you can find this in your book 24.2. Some of the major injuries specified under RIDDOR, we have bone fractures, except the fingers, thumbs, and toes, amputation, dislocation of the shoulder, hip, knee, or spine, temporary or permanent loss of sight, chemical or hot metal burns to the eye. Major injuries include electric shock resulting in unconsciousness or injury resulting in more than 24 hours stay in the hospital, unconsciousness caused by asphyxia or exposure to hazardous substances. Some of the dangerous occurrences that are reportable, we have collapse, overturning or failure of lifting equipment, explosion, collapse of pipework, plant equipment in contact with power lines, electrical short circuit or overloading causing fire or explosion, overturning of tanker with dangerous substances, malfunction of breathing apparatus while in use or during test before use, collapse or the partial collapse of scaffolding over 5 meters high or near water where there's a risk of drowning. None of these are really questions. I'm just reading. What are some reportable diseases? Occupational dermatitis, skin cancer, certain poisoning, occupational asthma, farmer's lung, asbestosis, leptospirosis, hepatitis, tuberculosis, legionellosis, occupational cancer, repetitive strain injury, and vibration white finger. We almost finished this slide, right? Okay. Notifying fatalities where death results within 1 year of a notifiable work accident or condition. the person's employer must notify the HSE, which is the relevant enforcement authority, in writing. And what again we have? Incident involving flammable gases, incidents involving death or injury from the supply of flammable gas, to be notified to the health and safety executive within 14 days using the approved form. Let's see again. Keeping of records. Records to be kept of injuries, diseases, and dangerous occurrences reportable on the RIDDOR. Records kept for at least 3 years and available on request to the enforcing authority. There's something called an accident book in the UK that the accidents are reported on. The Social Security claims and payment regulations requires employers to keep a record of accidents if they employ more than 10 people. Injured persons must inform the employer, record information on the accident book, which is the book you're looking at, the name of that book is BI 510. None of these has ever come for exam. Never, 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 right? A tick box is included on each page of the accident book, asking whether the injured person gives his or her consent to the disclosure of the information contained in that record to the safety representative. Right. So there's just one slide I said, which is examinable, and we can go back to that slide. Let's go all the way back. It was this slide here, right? So I have seen about 3 times they have asked, how should an employer report an accident to the enforcing authority? So I don't know if you want, I can just pull out the 5. There are 5 main points there. I can pull them out and write them on the side for you. However, again, this is not like a go-to question. It has appeared about 3 times before. Other than that, nothing on this slide has ever been tested for the NEBOSH exam, right? But it's a good idea to read all of them. Remember, past occurrences doesn't mean that it wouldn't come, more or less again, but that's just how it is anyway, right? Okay, just now somebody's on the outside waiting. I think they have gotten in. Did somebody call for that chat? Did somebody message?
Some person very powerless. Something.
Francescoli? Yeah?
No. Anything about wrong.
Okay, okay. All right. I should have to respond to some stuff here in the meantime. Right. So I don't know if you want to write it. Do you want to write it down? Because it was like a 5-mark question. They asked again, the heading here is like how must the employer report an accident to the HSC? Right? So this report is going to the health and safety executive. It was a 5-mark question. And it's how could the employer report the accident to the health and safety executive? Right? So we want to go with probably point number 1. They say, of course, they're all here. You can pull them from here, right? So the first thing is that a responsible person must be the one to make the call. I guess in the case study, that may be like a supervisor. Based on the case study, you know who it is. They will say the supervisor make the call, whatever. Or maybe even the manager should make the call, right? So a responsible person must make the call. Right. Next thing is that the call must be made via the quickest practicable means. You can find that one down here. It's 5 things, like I said. I'll just put quick on this side here. But you can write on the whole thing, right? Quickest practicable means. And that is normally understood to be via a telephone call or an email or a fax, right? Quickest practicable means. Fax, email, telephone call. Not in that order, of course. Probably the telephone call is probably first, right? The other thing here is that the report is going to be made to the health and safety executive, but a particular branch of the HSE, and that branch of the HSE is known as the ICC, the Incident Contact Center, right? the ICC Incident Contact Center. ICC for sure. And this is actually a department inside of the Health and Safety Executive, well, building anyway, right? The Incident Contact Center. Let's leave it right there, right? The fourth thing to get the point is that you must use the approved form. The most common form is F2508. There are different versions of it, like F2508A for diseases, of course, but the foundational form is F2508. Right? And the last thing, not the least thing, is that you have a certain number of days to make the calls. You have any more? Yeah. Right, yeah. So the last thing is that you have a certain number of days to make the report. The days could vary, but foundationally it's about 10 days. It could actually be 15 days or 1 day based on what has happened or within 24 hours. There's actually a chart for that in your book, I guess. Some of these could be within 24 hours based on what has happened, like a fatality. But other than that, normal sort of, I want to say normal, but I guess like typical 3 day, lost time accident, 10 days then, right? So this, if you want, you could just write this off for me, 10 days, but this is in your book if you find it in 4.2, right? There's a table to the back of RIDDOR there. You'll see they have the number of days, not as if they ask any of that. Once you get, the 10 days, I think you should be okay anyway. Right? If you want to see if you could find it in 4.2. And you can let us know if you find the table.
Yeah, so the table first.
I'll get mine in a bit. I'll just try to do two things at the same time here. You all have your book, and you all should be familiar with your book as adults now, right? You should find it and let us know the page. Right? But like I said, they don't really stress on that. Like they don't really say what's the number of days. So me, once they give them 10 days as a foundational day, you should be good. They don't already take out the mark. But based on the severity, I think that makes sense. Based on the severity, yeah, I would have less days or more days to make the report to the health and safety executive. Anybody got it? Anybody got it?
Page 27. sir.
Yeah, good. Yeah, but like I said, there's never been an extra mark for that. I mean, typically the case study don't say a fatality. They will say like a 3 day accident or something kind of major which falls within 10 days. So that's why I normally like to go with the 10 days. But if it's like some diseases and stuff, you had to report it within 24 hours. You could always look back or Google it if that was the question. But they have not stressed the number of days there. They just asked how to report it, right? And ladies and gents, having said that, I mean, we are not in any way predictors of any exam. It has just been like a trend analysis thing anyway, right? In case you missed this slide, not as if there's anything much important here. There's an accident book in England for you to report accidents on. The name of the book is BI 510. This is it here, right? BI 510. They have never asked that. I'm just saying that's what you're looking at here now. The book is a requirement of the law. And they have to record the accidents, not in a notebook, but on this particular book, there's a law for it. Look at here, Social Security claims and payment regs, but that is not an exam question either, right? So having said that, I would like to bring the curtains down on the academic part of this course anyway. We have also looked at the project in NG2 to a large extent. A lot of the videos on YouTube, if they were not your videos, there are other side, like this class RIDDOR, I could go on YouTube now and find a lesson on RIDDOR and post it to you while I'm talking here, right? So you don't have to really wait, but do you really need a lesson on RIDDOR again, having just been in the class? That's the other thing there, right? If you made a note something, then you don't really need too much of lessons on RIDDOR, right? But Shadrach Safety Institute, I'm going up now. I'm gonna check and see if they have a lesson on RIDDOR. You know, me have more than one. It's the same content anyway. So, you know, I running a search on RIDDOR. Yes, RIDDOR requirements, right? Already there for you. Another class, RIDDOR and exam logistics. Already there for you. Another class. But 3 recordings on RIDDOR, right? But I'll send one for you. I've seen one here. Exam. No. NG RIDDOR, which is what we just did. Come to the Nebosh National General. Yeah. I'm gonna send this to you now on exam logistics because I feel the exam logistics is what I'm going to actually tell you about now anyway. So, you know, in a way, you have it there for you already. Let me just find our group and we'll send it, right? I hope this is the correct group. If not, I'll be scared in another group because yeah, that looks like us, right? It's the April class, the class I had in April. It's the same thing, right? So let's kind of wrap this session up. I'll still put your videos up, but I said if anybody wants to, remember we always tell you that it have all the information on YouTube already. Same teacher. You all don't know each other anyway because you're all on Zoom. So it doesn't make a difference as to who is who in the class, right? In terms of you all knowing one another, then some of you all may know one another, but that doesn't really make a difference to the class itself anyway. Right, so that was the end of the NEBOSH general certificate. If I could find a blank slide, I could probably run through some exam logistics with you. Maybe this one, right? So let me just run through. I'll try to make this 15 minutes long because I don't want to do all. And then we can still try to open a pacifier, right? So where we are at now, please take a note. You can write this down with me. Where we are at now, somebody tried to come up to the office. Yeah, where we are at now, so we are in the process of paying for your exam. So some of you all may have gotten confirmations already, right? So the exam is scheduled for the 2nd of October, I believe, and we are in the process. Now, again, those of us who understand that, remember, you know, I guess if you're from Trinidad, you'd have a good idea of what we're talking about. There are certain restrictions that we have on foreign purchases, so we were not able to pay for everybody at once. But I think the majority of you have been paid for. Did anybody get a confirmation beside in Lex? Anybody got the exam confirmation?
I did.
Right,
No, sir, I
I
didn't
did
get
too.
anything.
right.
I got it as
Yeah,
well.
Ola, you got yours? I
No,
don't think
sir.
the payment. Yeah, I don't think like those like the repeaters like Misha, I don't think those went through us yet. We still have a couple of days, so we'll
No,
keep
sir, I
going
didn't
back
get it
to the
either.
bank. Yeah, we'll keep trying to see if we can get those things done anyway. Right? So that's where we are. So if everyone could take a note of that we're in the process of this is logistics, right? Like where we are at. So the majority, we can say 95% of you all have been paid for the exam. The exam have been confirmed and booked. Right? Kimberly Jacob, right? You can probably check again, Kimberly. I think you were in the batch that the payment went off for, right? But let me take a note. I'll take a look and see what happened. Right? Kimberly Jacob as well, right? Okay. Not a problem. The rest of you should be on the way. Keisha, Janet should be on the way. Now, again, it should be because, remember, we do face the restrictions in Trinidad. It's not about the money, it's about they don't allow a certain amount of payment to be made because paying for exam is like a foreign purchase, right? If anyone should not get through, which remember that have nothing to do with me, it have to do with the availability of pounds, then you would have to write the November exam, which is just about 4 weeks away, right? We hope that we would get it on Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, because I do go to the banks at different times to try to get those pounds anyway, right? Nicholas Passad. Nicholas Passad. Okay. So you can keep checking. I am actually not familiar with who was paid for because it's like a spreadsheet. But now that you said that, now I'll probably check and see again, who was paid for, right? All right, so the next thing is, well, whether or not the rest of you all get through, that will be dependent on foreign exchange availability in Trinidad. We hope to get it because that's how it goes anyway.
So
Um,
the
yeah, go ahead.
confirmation is the email with saying where the exam is going to be and stuff.
I believe so, yes. Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know about 95% of persons would have gotten it, right? Except then maybe and these who are saying Nicholas and Kimberly, I'll have to find a way to check the payment screen probably on Monday and see, right? But we will go back to the bank and see what we can get done. We are still on a limit though, because that's just how it is in Trinidad. I know the folks in Guyana mightn't understand, but that's what it is. Paying us then doesn't mean that we pay NIBOSH. To pay NIBOSH, we have to get pounds, and there's a limit in how much any business can purchase in Trinidad and Tobago. What normally happens if anybody doesn't get through, it's not the end of the world. You wouldn't die. It's just 4 weeks again. Well, hopefully you wouldn't die. And they write exam in November, right? It's not the end of the world anyway. It's just what it is. It's just the shortage of currency. And not just shortage, really. It's a limitation placed by the government that businesses cannot cross a certain amount of foreign purchases, right? So I cannot do anything about that. We will try and we'll see how best we could help these people who said that they are out of the running so far, right? Okay, so the rest of us, though, what is going to happen is that by the 27th of September, so I want you to take a note of this, by the 27th of September, NIBOR should send you what we refer to as the link, right? By the 27th of September, NIBOSH will send you like another email that would have a link in it. All right? When I say a link, like something to click, then it would have a link. And when you click on that link, they're also going to provide you with a password, because when you click the link, you're going to have to enter that password in the link. Right? You'd have to enter your student number and the password into that link. So if you want, you can take a little note of that as well. When you click the link, like when you click here, then there'll be a space to put in your password. And I think they call it the learner. What is the learner number they put? But they may say learner ID, right? So the learner number or the student number and the password goes into that link. Once you do that, now please take a note of the date. It's about the 27th of September. This is a between number, right? NUMBER, right? So once you enter the learner number and the password, that's it. You're good to go. But you just have to wait. You have to wait until the 2nd of October, right? So I'll put here point number 3. And you, like, you don't have to click the link on the 7th, on the 27th, sorry. But it'll be sent. It'll be sent, around the 27th by the week of the 25th, in fact, right? By the Wednesday, you're supposed to kind of start getting your link already, right? So you wait, right? You wait until the 2nd of October, and roughly, I believe about 7 a.m. is when the exam paper will be downloadable, right? The 2nd of October, the exam paper will become available roughly around 7 a.m. I do advise you all to start on time, including that may be a very difficult time for some people. But you can at least print the paper. If you know you're going to work or you're probably on an errand, you could probably print the paper. And the paper is just like 2 pages long, right? So print your paper and carry it with you during the course of the day. I do advise that you all try to start on time as well. So the rest of the points now is not on logistics. In fact, no, I have one more on logistics for you, right? So I think I'll finish up the logistics point and we'll come back to our real past paper, right? So the 2nd of October, about 7 a.m., the paper is available. You have 24 hours to do the exam, meaning you have until 7 a.m. the following day to submit. A lot of people do take very long. Few people finish, I mean, if you are not doing anything else, I think you could finish, but a lot of people do other things. A lot of people go to work or, go pick up somebody from school. So a lot of students do end up late in the night with it. I was telling you all that. The last exam I had was about 2 weeks ago. Some of them said they finished by 5. They started 7 and finished by 5, 6 in the evening, and then they check over and thing, right? So the other logistics says that this submission must be in PDF. You must convert to PDF before you submit, and you are submitting on the same link. Please take a note of that. You're not submitting to the school. You are responsible for downloading your own paper, and you are responsible for submitting your own paper on the link. Now, you don't have to stay on the platform that we talk about, the exam platform. You can just log in the platform to access the paper. Like when you log in at 7 o'clock, you could just download the paper. I'll put a down arrow there, right? You could download the open book exam. There's also a template for you to type on. You can download your template, right? So download the exam and download the template. They recommend doing the exam on the template and not a Word document. I advise that you start typing on the template one time. I had a student that told me that she rewrote the whole exam on a pencil and then had to type it over, which I think was very difficult. I think you download your template and you start one time, right? Download the template, rename your template, right? Put your name on the template, Keegan exam or Roberts exam, and you start typing on the template one time, right? Tell me if you have any issues here. When you have finished the exam, so this is what number 7 is about. When you finish, if you came off the platform, what I'm saying is that you'd have to click back the link again. The password should have been saved on it. And you're going to have to find the submit button. There is some terms and conditions they will ask you to agree to. You have to agree to it. I think only when you agree to the terms and conditions, please finish up this word for me, terms and conditions, then the submit button would appear. It's like if you didn't click agree, you wouldn't see the button that marked browse, right? When they say browse, just like a regular email, you're going to browse your computer and wherever you had your exam done and convert it to PDF, you browse and you click it and you just get the option to upload it like how you upload like a normal email, right? So you browse your desktop. If you had called it Keegan template or Keegan exam or Ola's exam, you just do that and you click it and it upload. You're gonna get a thank you, and then they will tell you about a closing interview. We have an interview to do, but that's a week after the exam, right? So number 8, if you want to take that down, there's a closing interview, but that's about 1 week after the exam, right? A one-on-one interview. Some of us have done it before because you wrote the exam before. Closing interviews are conducted 1 week after the exam. It's a one-on-one interview for about 10 minutes long to talk about what your experience was like during the exam. There are going to be a couple of questions asked in the interview, but none of it carries any marks anyway, right? Take a look from number 1 to number 8 and tell me if you want anything run through again.
Hi, sir. Christina
Yeah.
again.
So
What date will that interview be?
I wouldn't be able to say from now, but because like what we do, we call the students. So we'll call you Christy and say, are you free on the 15th of October? Like I did interviews till 9 o'clock last night, right? So a lot of working people don't have time in the day. So I did up until 9:15 last night, right? So I'll say, Christy, are you free 8 a.m. on the 15th of October? If you say yes, we schedule the interview. It's on Zoom, you log in. It's the same Zoom link, you're logging in, but it's just you and me, it's one-on-one. Same Zoom link, right? So you log in and then I will introduce myself. I would ask you the 3 questions Nibosh would have told me to ask you. It takes about 10, 15 minutes and then that's done. Another person, right? If I could find somebody else here without moving this thing too much, we will call you again. We'll say, let's say Crystal. We say, Crystal, are you free on Friday at 8:30? You say, no, okay, well, what about 7 o'clock on Saturday? And that's how we do it. You log in the same class link. I introduce myself, you introduce yourself. Nibosh is sending me back 3 questions to ask you based on your paper, which is why it's done a week after the exam, because they have to send me back something to ask you from what you'd have written. Again, for the second time, the closing interview does not carry any marks. That's why we wanted the cameras to be on. If you remember orientation day, part of the interview is like a physical, not a physical, but like an online check of your identity. So if you have had your cameras off for the whole semester and we don't know what somebody looks like, but then I wouldn't be able to conduct the interview then because I wouldn't be able to verify who you are anyway, right? But this is not for marks. Number 8 is not for marks, it's just a formality anyway, right? Anybody else take a look? So where we are, we in
So
number
I have a
1.
question.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so you said that we do not need to type the answers of the exam in Microsoft Word. So therefore, I don't need to download Microsoft Word because they should have their own.
Yeah, they have a template here. Yeah, so the same if you want, we can take a look at some of the students one from before. You have an exam template that that you download.
Okay, great.
When you click
So
the
I
link,
don't need Microsoft.
yeah, I'm not too sure. I don't know if somebody in IT could answer that.
You will still need some document processor to.
Yeah. Okay, so the guy in the office here is saying that you still need Microsoft Word to open this Word version then. Otherwise, your computer
Okay,
wouldn't have the software to open it. Yeah. All right.
okay. Thanks.
Yeah. Anybody? So normally what I do, I am in Trinidad the 27th of September, as far as I know. Right? So what I could do by that day, I could message you all now to see if they send the link and I'll ask you all, did you all put in the password? You could actually change the password to where I haven't changed mine. They said like a digital password. You can change it if you want. I haven't changed mine. I put it in and I just click save. Whatever it is anyway, right? But if you want, you can change your password. Like when you click on the link, you can put in the password, and then when you enter the system for the first time, it'll actually prompt you, do you want to retain that password or change the password? If you want to change it, you can just put your name, right? You just put Crystal or you just put Michelle, put something simple now so that you remember. Or if not, just do like me. Whenever you enter the password, just click save and then the system remember whatever password they had sent anyway, right? Tell me if you're okay logistics wise. I mean, it has some things I leave out, but when I mean it have some things I didn't really leave out, but it have some things between some of these now. Like okay, like number 4, right? Number 4 also should mean that you should print the paper. Like when we say download, you should have a printer, right? So when you download the paper, you print because remember you don't want to read on screen and type because there's like 2 screens now. You have to keep minimizing, maximizing, minimizing, maximizing. So the best thing to do when you download is to print the paper one time, right? The 24 was number 5. Number 5, between that, having it, you need to get food, right? You need to eat, you need to, like, a good thing, and I mean, this is like I said, there's some things here, is like, every question you do, you should take a walk. Every question you finish, you should grab a bite. Or a snack. Snacking is actually good as long as
So
you
they
don't
have to
overdo it.
save it first and then take the walk.
Yeah, save it first and then take the walk. Take a stretch if you have a dog, you have some animal, go and play with them or something, right? It does actually do good for your brain, right? When I say a walk, not a very long walk, maybe 5 minutes, take a stretch or whatever, and then come back to do another one. So there's a lot of things in between there now. One of them is, of course, food. I was actually listening to a student who said that they didn't prepare anything now, but try to prepare something before, like whatever. I guess in the Caribbean here, like we could prepare sandwiches, pilau or whatever have you, right? Something, or you could order food that they have it delivered. Yeah, that places does do that, right? And not expensive food. It have like roti or whatever you could order and have somebody drop something for you on that day because you don't want to spend 2-3 hours preparing food on that day, right? Because that's when 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning would reach you. And then what state is your mental faculties? 3 a.m. in the morning then, right? So there's a lot of other logistics things there that I didn't really mention, but I mentioned them now anyway. Make sure and get something to eat. Make sure they have a printer and stuff. If that's okay with you, I want to kind of open back an exam paper and we can talk about some techniques
So,
that,
could I
yeah,
just say something?
sure.
Well, I did the exam before, right? So
Yeah.
I have the experience and I want to say take sir's advice because When I began the exam, I was thinking it was like still 9 o'clock when I started. When I checked, it was already 10, half 10. So the time creeps up on you and you shouldn't really dilly-dally. Try to avoid really going out and staying and
Yeah.
finish the exam first. Because I am a type, I could type. But when you're thinking and you're trying to answer carefully, the time will creep up on you.
Yeah. I'm the opposite, and I know most men may be the same thing. I'm not good at typing. So I have to physically look at the keys. I have to physically look at the keys. So typing for me does take long. That's why I told you all. I have some ways that I have found some ways then to kind of move fast. Like if I know a question is, and we look at one just, I will type up a line. Like in my opinion, the management failure at company XYZ is, and I will copy that 10 times because I don't really have time to look for those keys to type those things anyway. Or typing for me is not natural there, right? Typing is not unnatural. I never did typing in school, I did sciences. So I guess most men here may have been around the same thing. So typing is a little bit difficult. Like when you type and look back, you see a whole set of stuff spelled wrong. So I found some ways. And again, if like that, because this is a typed exam, that's what I said. Don't waste time writing in pencil. A student told me she wrote the whole thing out in pencil. And she wake whole night. She said she submitted like about 5:30 in the morning. And I was like, so it's just wasting time because you could type. And if you didn't like what you type, you could just delete it. What was the point in writing it out, right? There's something to write out. I'll show you what that is now. But they should never
So
write a whole
can I ask
opinion.
one
It
more
should never,
question,
yeah,
please?
go ahead. Yeah, sure.
So your suggestion is to print out the scenario and the questions,
Yeah, sure. Because how are you gonna,
have it there,
yeah,
and type as fast as you're reading.
yeah, because otherwise, because so you have something in your hand and then you type on the template. The template should be what is open because like if you didn't print it, then it means like you had to keep minimizing. I mean, you have seen how I do it sometimes in like in the live. You have to keep minimizing. Like, what did the question say again? You minimize, then you open market template, you minimize. And then what about when you had to read and find those little points? When you had to find those little things they say, like the induction was 3 minutes long. And when you read it on screen, you're not seeing it. But when you type it and you have a pencil in your hand, right? You could actually underline as you go now, right? Look, I have no, I'm not telling you nothing. I'll implicate myself. Yeah. So, but anything I do, look, I have a pre-call to do for a company, right? Instead of minimizing, maximizing, I would just print out the pre-call. That's what I was going to show you, right? So, I mean, so I have it here. I'm looking at, they want the HSE policy, so I'll just do the HSE policy. They want the risk assessment for Shadrach safety. So I have it now. So it's the same kind of principle that you don't have to keep minimizing and looking back. What did they ask for again? No, I have it printed, right? So try to invest in some ink around the 2nd of October. Your fees are all paid as far as I know. So you'll have no more fees for me, right? And so whatever monies when you get paid the end of this month, you could buy some ink for your printer and stuff like that, right? And try to make the most out of that anyway, right? Folks, let me go into a question paper here.
I just want to make, sorry, but I want to make one more, I think is very pertinent.
Yeah.
They must keep a reference of all the books or
Yeah,
whatever resources they use to answer the questions, because at
yeah,
the end of the test, they ask you to list it so they
yeah,
could check for plagiarism.
yeah. Well, they don't really check the plagiarism thing like that, but there is a list at the end of it, right? There's like you could put your textbook, like you could write the end of it like your textbook, but plagiarism is not checking really that list anyway. Plagiarism is when you say something is your work, but it's not your work then, right? And there's a software for that. So if you know you're copying from the book, I've always said you all read it a couple of times and then change it up. If you're copying from the slides too, that's also a big issue too. If you're copying from the slides, right? Read it and say it back in your own words. And some things you can't. Like if they ask you, what are the negative indicators of health and safety? Well, you can't really change accident rate. There's really no other way to say it. You can say the rate of accident, but that's about the same thing, right? But so some things you can't change. You can say, but like the way you tie it into the passage is what will be different. So you can say, in my opinion or in my view, a lagging indicator or a reactive indicator of safety culture is a high number of accident rates at company XYZ. This is seen in the case study where it was mentioned that there were 3 accidents and none of which have been investigated. And that's about it. That's how simple it is, right? They don't really check that the list at the end is not for plagiarism because that's not really what plagiarism is anyway, right? All right, but definitely keep a record of the people that you use if it's textbooks or authors. They don't really have much if you use the HSC website. If we want if you bear with me a bit, I'll have to open somebody paper. I don't have it open because I didn't know you all wanted to see that, right? But if you want, we could take a look at a past student paper. Just to kind of get all of this out of here now. And we can take a look at what that may look like, and then we can still look at a question paper. And I wanted to work on some techniques, at least one main technique anyway. But the funny thing about Zoom is that you have to preload it before, otherwise it's trouble to find anything on it. Right, let me take it, find a student. Okay, so this is Carrie Ann. She is in my degree class. Okay, I could find, okay, let me find Janelle Lewis, right? Carrie Ann had a mark of 54.
My own and use my paper.
No, well, that's who I have saved, and I normally would have a couple of sample papers. There are people who I ask their permission for now. Could you all tell
Okay.
me if you're seeing Janelle Lewis? Are you all seeing that one? Probably not.
No.
Okay,
No,
just
sir,
now.
we still
Okay, give me a
seeing
minute.
the slide, the
Yeah.
end of the
See if I see
slide.
it now. Are you seeing it now? Can you hear me now as they say?
Yes,
Yeah. Okay,
yes,
good.
Janelle Lewis.
Right, okay, good. So this is what is referred to as the template. This would be blank, of course, right? So when you get it, it'll be blank. So you put in your name, your learner number, the name of the learning partner. Make sure you get this correct, Shadrach Safety Institute Company Limited. If you don't know it, after 5 months, you should write it down, because that's an accredited name, especially those in Guyana. The next thing you put another school, and then they say, well, that's not the accredited name. I see somebody put Samuel Safety School on there. Yeah, Samuel Safety School. So, despite my name being Samuel, that's not the accredited center, right? So, Shadrach Safety Institute is a registered tertiary level institute in Trinidad and Tobago with the Accreditation Council. And the entity Shadrach Safety Institute is the accredited school by NEBOSH itself, right? Make sure you get that correct. Look, I'll leave it there for a couple of minutes, right? In case anybody didn't know it, please write it down. So this is the template. It'll all be blank, of course. And you see this thing here? You see this kind of, they refer to this as a parenthesis, that kind of bracket there. That it would just be 2 brackets. It'll just be two brackets, and you have to click on it and you have to type inside of it. I don't know if you can make it out. Look at here, it have a bracket there. Number 1 would just be that. I could have a blank space like that, and it have 2 brackets like that. So you put your cursor inside it and you start typing. That's what you're looking at here. This is the start of it. And if we scroll down, we'll see the end of it. We'll see the like where it ends for number 1. Right? While we're on it, we could take a look at Janelle's answers, how she structured her answers. Remember, 1 mark is given for each correct technical point. So therefore, if number 1 was worth 10 marks, then you need to have 10 responses. So let's have a look. Nicely laid out. Number 1, nicely laid out. Number 2, this looks like a 10-mark question, so she have 10 nice responses, right? So going down, I'll stop again at 1 more. This one here, maybe the employee's responsibilities seem to be like a 10-mark question, so she have 10 answers. You can read them. The apprentice breaches duty when he was speeding in the car park in an attempt to show off, which could have resulted in a serious accident involving other workers, therefore showing no reasonable care. So the employee there breached his duty under Section 7 in that he did not take reasonable care of himself. And then she mentioned where it was in the case study, speeding in the car park, right? To the end of it, there is the word count. A lot of students are told you all in the a lot of students in the May class, sorry, the April class, asked about the word count. They said, Nebo said the word count was 3,000 words, which they did say. In a way, they did say, but you could cross the word count. There is no penalty, right? I think I made that clear, as well. Just give me a minute, right? If you have any questions, you can ask. So it's a good time. All right. So this is what Misha mentioned about the reference, course notes, HSC website, ROC study guide. But really, this is not like a link now. If it was like a link, they could have checked plagiarism, but it really isn't a link. So they can't really check plagiarism like this. Remember, if it's a link, they could have click on it and then see where you got the information from. But really and truly, they don't ask for the link here then. It's just like a list of where you got your materials from. Course notes, HSC website, ROC study guide, Google. That's kind of good enough. But it's not like a link, so they can't click it to see if you copy from that link anyway, right? All right, tell me what you think. There's a surface view of a template paper. And we still want, it's just about 5 to 2, so we could still look at a question paper and work on some strategies anyway, right? Please remember, you are free to cross the 3,000 word mark. I had some students in the April class cutting down their work, which I felt they should not have done. Nobody should be cutting down nothing. Leave your work. There is no penalty for crossing the 3,000 word mark. And then they ask for a lot, because remember, they say things like this, right? Remember this? Avoid writing too little. Avoid writing too little, as this would make it difficult for the examiner to award marks. So if you cut down your thing to one line, thinking about word count, well then you're not going to get mark anyway. So forget the word count, right? If you all do what I tell you to do, like if you all do how Janelle did hers, you would come maybe like 3,300, 3,400, 3,500. That's all fine. Nothing is wrong with that, right? So don't let that be an issue, because you don't want to cut yourself short. If you cut yourself short, right? Avoid writing too little, which is one line, as this would make it difficult for the examiner to award marks. Difficult means they're not going to give you the mark. Single word answers or lists are unlikely to gain marks. So why are you cutting it down? And I saw some of them did that. One of them I saw last night, the person actually cut it down to one line, And you know what the reason was? Because the word count is 3,000. And I've kept saying this, it's the same class. Folks, these things are on record, right? These things are being recorded for you all to listen to. So it's not like if you have an excuse to say like you didn't know you could cross the 3,000 words. They say you are not expected to write more than 3,000 words, but you have to cross 3,000 words, right? If you write short responses, you would not get marks, right? So you have to you have to do what I tell you to do. Forget this. NEBOSH need to change this, right? Rightfully speaking, they say you could get about 3,300, but you could cross it. Look, Janelle paper was 3,800. Where was she penalized? She was never penalized. In fact, what happened? She got the highest, right? So you can take a lesson from that. And everybody else, the girl after her that got the highest had 4,000 words. And the one after her, the guy that after her that had the highest was 4,500 words. I'm not saying write so much. Some of them just really overdo it, right? 4,000 I feel is too much. But anyway, around the 3,002, 3,003, 3,004, 5, 6 there, all of that is good. You don't have to worry about it. What is wrong is when you cut it down. I mean, I can tell, I sorry to tell, I didn't tell the student, but I think she would not pass. Because if you cut down your thing to one line, saying you want to make it fit in the 3,000 words, you're not going to pass. And you know what she cut off? She cut off where she tied back into the case scenario. Right? So we have said this to you all many times, and I just say don't let it be an issue for you all, because it is things that can be sorted out anyway, right? Let's have a look at this. I want to focus on a technique. Now, last week, I think I did one, but I want to focus on a technique, not an answer, a technique, right? So you all already know what I do. I look at the questions first, right? So there's one on audited, maybe we can do that one. There's one on management of risk. There's one on individual factors, management of near misses, procedural control, policy. This is a very lovely question. This is a repeat question here. Employee responsibilities, that's like what Janelli did. Benefit of worker involvement, learning lessons from adverse events. So this is 9 questions, which is a lot because most papers don't have 9. Most papers have 7 or 8 or whatever, right? So why you look at it is you kind of judge how long you have now. So if you see 9 questions, you say, wow, that's like a whole day work, right? But if you see 6, what if you see 6 questions or 7? 7 means, okay, it's not that bad. You could probably knock them off one by one, right? So another technique, I don't know if you're writing them down. So one technique is, I'm not going to write as it because remember, this is recapping techniques. I want to teach another technique today. So another technique is do the ones you can do first. Do the ones that you felt was easy. Normally that's something with safety culture. We can look and see if we see it. Most people like the culture question. By the way, number 16 is very easy. Most people like the culture question, so you can go looking for that if it have one. I didn't quite see a culture question, maybe I pass it, right? But you can read and see what's easy and what's not easy. What are the strengths of the organization and approach to managing risk in the factory? What are the strengths of the organizational approach to managing risk in the factory? What individual factors of the new factory worker could have contributed to the near miss? That's a nice question too. Comment on what worked well with supervisors as management of the near miss. This is a nice question. 7 marks, that's an easy 7 marks. What procedural controls were in place to reduce the likelihood of an incident occurring in the dyeing machine? That is straight from the case study as well. All of these are like a comprehension. Number 6 is really nice if you'll understand it. Number 7, right? So you pick one, and I'm going to ask you to pick one. You pick one to start with, right? You pick the easy one. I don't know if you want to do that technique or do you all just want to do number 1 to number 9 or number 1 to number 8, whichever one you have. But I recommend doing what you can do first. You just have to head it up on the paper. The first one, of course, would be number 2 or number 3 instead of number 1, or maybe when you finish, you could copy and paste them and put them back in order. It's up to you if you want to do that. They are fine with it being out of order as long as you label it properly. Like if you start number 3 first, then you start with number 3, right? Can you all tell me which one seems to be easy for you? And we can I'll practice the technique on that one. Which one? This is the same paper from last week. I didn't change it because I wanted you to be familiar with it, right? Which one seems like easy for you? There are some ways I judge easy. If you want to know what's my criteria for easy, my criteria for easy is if it's like a repeat question, or one of my criteria for easy is if the answer is in the passage. You see, the answer in the passage, I don't really have to go anywhere. I don't have to do any research. I just have to just do that question from the passage, right? Which one you all think which one do you perceive to be an easy question? For Nadine, no, you all don't upload your project. Your projects come to the school, right? You submit your own exam, but we submit your project for you. That's a comment on the chat, right? Anybody, which one seem easy? Well, which one seem hard then? All? Which one seem, me, to be honest, I would have do number 16 first. Sorry, number 6 first, because it's so easy. Anybody remember doing number 6? I think we did this. I may have given you an assignment on this, or we had done something like this in class. I would have done number 6 first because it's 16 marks. But I don't have to, Whenever I do it, I do it. But number 16, real easy, if you understand it. Anybody could shout one for me? It's getting a bit late. Number 16 may not have allowed me to practice my technique because it's too easy.
Number 3, because you're
Number
looking
3?
for things that the employee did that contributed to the near miss.
Right. Okay, good. So let's do, I will do number 3 and number 16, right? So for number 3, what I do, I'm trying to find a piece of scrap paper. For number 3, what I would do, I think I showed you this last week. If not, please look again to it. But what I do, right? What would I do in there before I even read the case study? They could read it, huh? You could read it, to be honest, right? The exam is called an open book exam. I guess I'll have to go for my book, right? So you could open your book to see what are the individual factors. If you study, you would actually know what individual factors are. I guess because you all can't see my paper. So what I'm saying is that what I would do, I would have made a list of 10 individual factors. In other words, then I'm getting the answer before I even read the case study, or I have a form of answer. When I say a form, I think I'll show you this last week. I would just write down just like a one word with a pencil then, right? Like what are individual factors? Anybody remember what are individual factors? What are some individual factors? Anyone? So if that piece now is where you have to study, what are some individual factors? So you just want to find it a bit. You want to take your time and find it in your book. You may want to go back
But
to
people's own
3.1.
personalities
Yeah.
come into play with regards to their job specifications.
Yeah, personality is one, but your personality is the one that you don't want to talk about because personality, remember, you cannot change a person's personality. That if you look at that part of the slide and you look back at the video, I said that's the piece we don't ever mess with. Anybody else? What are somebody like what are some of
Competence,
okay, competence? Anything else?
age and gender, physical abilities.
Very good, right? Okay, good. Let me just write. I'm just gonna write down about three, right? So competence. I wanted to show you what I was doing in it, but see, you can see what's at my hand level. I'll have to go for the book then. Competence, age. What's the next one you said? What's another one?
Gender.
Okay, but yeah, but we don't want to touch gender too because I have that's a technical matter. I mean, that's like a sensitive issue. So gender is a person, individual factor, but you don't want to mention that one. I'll put in here probably like the level of training and maybe even willingness to follow rules, right? Level of training. Level of training. You can finish up this word for me. So, like what I was saying, like I would have jotted down on a piece of paper. So that's what I did here now. If you notice, this like an answer plan, but it isn't type. I just put down age, experience, willingness to follow rules, training, and medical. Now, once I have 5, I could start reading. But I want to show you something in the book, right? Let me just go for my book for the last time. Let me show you something.
So there is perception.
Yeah, but you see, you wouldn't be able to find a good point for that in the passage, right? You're picking the easier one. So what I do, so if you decide to do number 3, right, you could give yourself like an hour per question then, right? But I already thought about 5, right? Now, if you couldn't think of them, you go back to the book. You're trying to find individual factors. This is in chapter 3. If anybody find it, they could shout it for me. So this is why you need to kind of be familiar with your book, right? And
Page 20.
right. So page 20. So we see here competence, skills, personality, attitude, risk, perception, right? Now I suppose that they are easier individual factors then, right? Not that you see it have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You remember, you have to remember the leisure. Remember that how we taught that, like you had to think for yourself. Individual factors is anything about that person. Is anything about the person physiologically, like your physical size, stature, strength, fitness level. So you could put another one there, right? It doesn't have to be only if you understand what I'm getting at, folks, right? The understanding is more important than you trying to match up one in the book then, right? So once you have about five, which I have, I just thought about fitness level as well. You can now start to read the case study, but you may want to start to compose your line, right? So you can start to compose, and this is you want to tell, I will copy and paste 10 times. So I will say the individual factors of the new factory worker that could have contributed to the near miss is, and I put that 10 times. That's how I finish. And we can go back to the case study and we can see what we could find about that new worker, right? And the case study will give us some as well, because remember, we're looking for things about the worker, right? So we could read down here, but so you could start to see where they start talking about the worker. First part didn't say anything about that really. Second part, right? So we are looking at focusing on what's happened with the worker, who this worker was. Okay, so the new factory worker, right? So I'm seeing here. So the owner hired an external health and safety consultant to carry out an audit of health and safety at the factory. That's not important because we talk about the new worker, right? Okay, so at induction, new factory workers are given a basic overview of all areas of the factory floor. The owner has redesigned the induction to include basic health and safety training and to give them an understanding of the revised health and safety policy. The new factory workers are also eventually trained on the safe system of work using all factory machinery. Supervisor R has worked at Northern Mill for over 10 years and is popular amongst the workers. Since the changes in the approach to health and safety management at the factory, Supervisor R has persistently voiced the opinion that these changes are a waste of time and money. They have said that they are too busy on the factory floor to spend time on health and safety. We really still don't want that. We kind of focus on the new factory worker, right? Recently, the owner has asked Supervisor R to carry out the induction for the 3 new factory workers on their first day. Resentfully, Supervisor R gives the new factory workers a tour of the factory and gives them printed copies of the health and safety policy, telling them to read it in their own time. So you see why you need to print the paper? It's a needle in a haystack. All right, let's go again. So a week later, one of the new factory workers assigned the task of transferring a large order of textile from the knitting area to the vessels in the dyeing area. Supervisor R tells the new factory worker that because of an error with the delivery date of the order, they need to speed up as this needs to be completed as soon as possible. Supervisor R is due to finish their shift in 15 minutes, but wants to leave early to attend a personal event. They tell the new factory worker that the next supervisor due on shift, Supervisor S, is probably around somewhere. So they are fine to get on with the task. Concerned, the new factory worker starts to question being left to work alone on a machine that they have not previously used. Supervisor R shouts that the new factory worker should do as they are told, or I would report you to the owners, then leaves. Right, you see when you start reading this as lost focus on the question. So we're looking at the individual factors, right, of the new factory worker. Let's see what they're saying here again. So I mean, I think we got one in terms of experience, right? I mean, you could use that anywhere, right? You could use that anywhere. Like this one here, concerned the new factory worker starts a question being left to work alone on a machine they have not previously used. They could use this here for experience. right? So you can say an individual factor that contributed to the accident at Northern Mill is a lack of experience by the new factory worker. This is seen where they start to question being left alone to work in a machine they have not previously used. Right? So that's a perfect answer. But I mean that's one, and this is really that needle in a haystack approach that you have to sort of take, to get to the answers anyway. Right? We can read and see if we get another one. I was thinking age, I mean the fact that they kept saying new factory worker, but I don't think they mention age anywhere, right? But the fact that they say new, I don't know if they mention apprentice, we'll have to go back and find that word, which is where I said the printing of the paper is very important, right? Like all I can say is new factory worker, new factory worker, new factory worker. But to me, there's not a sign that indicator or a word indicator that new means young. New doesn't really mean young. Let me see. If somewhere they had that word somewhere, but I have seen no indication of it. There are 30 factory workers and 4 factory supervisors. But you know what I'm getting at now? New doesn't mean young, but we had to make a point. We had to make a point, right? So we had to find something to indicate that new also meant that they may not have had. New factory workers are given a basic overview, right? I guess I could use this one. I could use so you see what does take the time, and that's why you have to have these things printed, right? I'm trying to think if like to me, I would have still given something about age. I would have said I think could have been, I mean, they didn't say, and that's the thing with the past paper, they didn't say if new meant young, because new doesn't have to mean a young worker, right? Anybody saw anything like that in the passage that may have indicated that the person is young or so you see why I need to print the paper, right? It's not a joke. And you have to really try to find really hard to find these things anyway. The new factory worker is not physically injured, only shocked. I mean, it doesn't really say that the person is young or old. But I guess we could use the idea and quote the new factory worker, right? Because there's actually 10 individual factors. So we only have 5, right? So you may have to Google some, you may have to check the book. The book only have 5. Some of these in the book, what they're saying is that you may have to consider, and you see there's nothing here on that. You have to consider things like, for 10 marks then. So you understand the predicament, folks? It's 10 marks, but the book have 5. Out of the 5, you probably cannot use 2 of them. Anyone saw anything about the individual factors again? It can't be one answer. Okay, let's take a look here. So the new factory worker, the machine starts immediately. We read this last week too. So there are 10 rows of textile for the new factory worker to transfer to the dyeing area. Worried that they will not finish on time, they quickly begin loading the textiles into the dyeing vessel, right? So you could say an individual factor could have been, stress, I think, is an individual factor, right? Stress not because of the work. If you only could write that down. You see, that's the thing, it's not in the book. It's really in your head. You have to think about what the individual is going through. Stress and anxiety, right? So you can say an individual factor is the person may have been under a tight job demand and maybe stressed out, right? And this is seen where it was mentioned, worried that they would not finish on time, right? Worried that they would not finish on time.
So in a similar case, can you use an individual factor of like maybe like fear of the supervisor and fear of losing their job, they went along with it? or the
That could have
supervisor.
been one, yeah. Phobia is an individual factor.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah. Phobia. If you check my notes, on my slides, now a lot of people use the print out the slides for the exam, or before the exam, should I say. But if you look at my slides, I have I could open it for you now, just to find it. To have in fact, let me do it because you know why? You know why? It's psychological. Then if you understand that, the fact that you all see me open it, you all will go and open it. But if you all don't see me open it, you will not go and open it. Right? That's a defined way I put it. That would have been 4.3 or for chapter 3. If you open that slide, I have more than the book. Right? But I'm not seeing it. Probably because this Zoom thing is always in the way. Okay, I got it, right? Exactly week 5. So you see in the hour you have there, right? Open the slides. You check the book don't have enough. Check the slides. The slides have everything. Watch how much indicators we have here. If we go to individual factors, look at there. Watch how much. What about skill? No, we could use skill. We could use attitude, but we could use fear. If you look at the other side, you can have phobias here. Stress, phobias, language, education, experience, competence. So you didn't really need to research nothing. All of them was on the slide. But you had to remember to use the slides. Oh, by the way, are you all seeing the slide? No. But by now you should know is lesson 5 we're talking about. A lot of students printed it. Are you all seeing it now? Yeah, so because all of them there, right? So instead of having to Google, you could just open my slides. I have them. So when Aidan said fear, I remember phobia was on the slide, right? So then you could come back and we go back to the thing, and then you can say, passive, what was that? Then you could say like an individual factor could have been, like a fear, on the part of the worker from the supervisor or who shouted at him and said, do as you told, or I'll report you to the owner, right? We could use skill because if we come here or even experience, you'll find some more here, right? Frustrated, the new factory worker reaches into the vessel to remove some of the textiles. At the same time, supervisor R walks in the shop floor to start their shift. If we come back up here, they force the textiles from the 4 rows into the vessel before they start the machine. And of course, that could have been, talking about experience or skill, right? Or not following rules then, because what they were doing there, they were frustrated and they decided to do all in one. So you could find them, but the thing is, it's a task, and that's why this day I told you to take the day off from your work. The questions, what I found, the questions is one thing, but you see, typing them and finding them is another thing. I have done this, and what looks as if it's going to take you 1 hour ends up taking you 2 hours, right? But what helps, I don't know if you understand, these kind of things help. If you create a plan, it helps now with an answer, and then you can move forward from there with the slides or whatever have you, right? Let's just take a look at another question. I don't have time to really do another one, but we could just try to practice the plan a bit. Let's pick on something like maybe we could practice on. All right, like this one, number 8, right? So just practicing the plan. The plan is to start writing down some points then before you even go into it, right? What are the potential benefits of involving Northern Mill factory workers in workplace health and safety? So we see here, learners should not focus on consultation. You should support your answer where applicable using relevant information from the scenario. So what they want there is potential benefits. What's the benefits, right? So you write down the word benefits. What are the benefits of involving Northern Mill workers, right? And before we go into it, you can start to get some benefits, right? So could you shout a benefit? What's a benefit of involving workers?
It helps create a positive work environment.
Very good. So create positive culture. That's a good one. I can go with things like it may result in like better, like what I'm trying to say, like better rule, like better workers following the company rules. Like what would have happened there than the person having to force that text there? Like better rule. I'm just gonna put better rule. I'll find a way to say it when I do the exam, right? Another benefit could of course be reduced accidents. These are some of the easy benefits. Another benefit could be, like a greater buy-in, right? A greater buy-in into what the company is doing. Another benefit of involving workers is that they get their detailed input into the like into what to be done. So that's what I write in there. Like every question they do, they try to create an answer plan then. So by the time you go into the question, you already have some answers, right? Or you could just Google it. Let's try that. That's also a technique. So could we practice that as well? If you have your phones, I'm going to do it live in front of you all. Okay, so on your phone, what you want to do, you want to just go to Google, right? Now, just to be honest, the thing to do would have been to open the slide to see if there's a benefit of worker involvement in the same PowerPoint. Or you go back to your book under consultation. This is what you're doing, actually showing you, right? And you're trying to find the benefits of worker consultation. If you don't see it, then you can probably go to Google. But Google is always there. The book is always there too, right? If we could find something on the benefits of worker consultation, we can just use that. So health and safety committee. So all of these things is what takes the time, right? It is not there apparently. At least I haven't seen it. It may be there. So I've come to Google, right? So what I do here, I'm just gonna Google what are the benefits of worker consultation. And you run a search on that. Don't plagiarize anything. Of course, if you find something, you have to say it in your own words. I found here 7 benefits, and maybe I could get some from that one. One of them under there, 7 benefits. So you can see that 7 benefits of consultation. So we could read it. Remember, you're not plagiarizing, and it could give you an idea. 7 benefits of consultant workers. Let's see what it says.
Yeah, but excuse, the question states learners should not focus on consultation.
Yeah, we're not focusing on consultation. We're focusing on the benefits.
Okay.
Right? But the question is on worker involvement. Right? So you could say whatever you want to say. That is what you call consultation. We're not focusing on, if you understand what they mean by, do you understand what they mean by not focus on consultation? When they say not focus on consultation, they're talking about how it is in the book, like how it was on the orange and green table. But that's what they don't want. They don't want you to put it. You want to say you could find it in your book? But remember the orange and green table for consultation? So that's what they're saying. Don't focus on that. Right? The health and safety representative, the need for consultation, page 10. But they don't want the diagram, they don't want the law and stuff there. They just want the benefits. Right? What are the potential benefits? Therefore, these answers here are correct. Reduce accidents, because you see, this is not focusing on consultation. It didn't mean to ignore the word consultation. Right? Detailed input from the workers. All of these are benefits. So do you all understand what I'm doing, folks? You all have to be able to read and understand it now. Right? So I have here from this Google document, the provision of safe workplaces, provision of safe equipment, keeping and maintaining record, not discriminated against employees. So that could be a good one, right? I could use that one, but I'll say it in my own way. But what I said, the Google does give me an idea now, right? So like if you're in, okay, like if a benefit is that you create, like a environment free of discrimination, right? So that could be a benefit. That might not be the best answer, but again, it all depends on I being alive here. And of course, when I say alive, I mean alive with you here. And I'm just showing it. That doesn't mean that this is the answer. I'm showing you how to get an answer that you could go and research, I see a consultant with employees bring a healthy working environment. That's a good one, right? So I could jot that down. I could, not as how it is there, I'll put it down as consultant with workers could create a healthy, safe work environment, right? So I'll use the same phrase healthy though, healthy and safe work environment, right? But as the benefits, and I would have gotten all 10. When I mean 10, I have 6 now. But before I even go to the case study, we can remember all you're going to the case study for is to get the line in it, right? If they have reduced injury and disease. Well, I didn't have that. I had reduced accident. So that could be the same thing, right? Worker ownership is seen as a nice one. It generates ownership, right? So 7, it generates ownership, meaning that the workers would feel a part of, whatever is being worked on, right? Learning opportunities, right? Because you're concerned with the workers, it creates an environment of learning, right? So see if you see my answer plan, I'm on 8 and I don't have no exam to do, right? But I'm showing you how you can get some answers from your head. What's the benefit of worker involvement, worker consultation? You could Google this too. Have we forgotten the HSC website? If you have, you shouldn't. So you go to the HSC website. So I just did one search on Google there. So I'm going to the HSC website now. I'm showing it because you see this is my last day to tell you anything. I go to the HSC website, I click on it, and I will enter in it into the search bar. What are the benefits of involving workers? Worker ownership, worker consultation. You can use different words if you want. If you look at the heading here, they said worker involvement. So I'm just going to put there, I'm going to put in the search engine, benefits of worker involvement. And I run a search, right? The first thing that came up, why talk to your employees about health and safety? Benefits of leading health and safety at work, right? So I suppose you can get 2 more, but you see what happens. You have to get the answer and then you create your answer. Then you say, the potential benefits of involving Northern Mill factory workers in workplace health and safety is that it creates a sense of ownership. And you talk about it. This can be seen where there would have been a better dialogue then between supervisor R and S and the new factory worker. And you can quote a line from that there anyway, right? Now remember they say what are the benefits? So the benefits not in the passenger. I want to forget that. The benefits not in the passage. They are asking you what are the benefits. In other words, the passage do have the benefits, but they could suggest a benefit because if they had greater consultation or greater communication, they may have better ways of avoiding that worker shouting and the supervisor SO shouting at the new factory worker, right? Folks, you understand what I just said there? When you go to the passage, this passage will have 10 benefits in it. In fact, there's nothing beneficial here at all. They're asking you what are the benefits. It's kind of like from what you are saying, there'll be a benefit. If you say then a benefit is that there would have been better trained employees. It's not as if you're seeing better trained employees here. Now. You would see worse trained employees here, but you can say based on the fact that they were not trained, the first aider was supervisor S, right? But a benefit is that if we have more first aiders, we could have avoided, or not really avoid, but reduce the harm suffered to the injured person. All right, a lot of people think, okay, because you see the question said benefits, you think that you'll get 10 benefits there. No, it don't have 10 benefits there. You are the one suggesting the benefits. By the way, I didn't open this document. Let me see, why talk to the employees? You say identify joint solution problems, develop a positive health and safety culture, reduce accidents, Bring about improvement. So that's a good one because we do have that one. That could be number 9. Meet customers' demand. Comply with legal requirements. That's a good one. Because if you look at the book, it had 2 laws for consultation in the book. They didn't say focus on it. We are focusing on it, but we could say by consulting with the employees, then you satisfy the legal requirement of, anybody remember the law? The health and safety consultation with employee regulation and the health and safety committee, sorry, the safety representative and safety committee regulations, right? You ought to be familiar with your book. But I'm showing you how to get the answer and tie it back in, and hopefully you don't believe that everything in the passage is a benefit, right? Basically, what you're seeing is what is not there, so you're suggesting what should be there. And this question is done. That question is done, you know. I had 10 answers here. I probably had 10. I had 9. Probably just make up one again, and that question would have been done. Every time I'm saying, let me just use one. Every time I'm saying, let's just use reduce accident, right? Reduce accident. So every time I would just have a potential benefit, that's one of my answers, of involving Northern Mill factory workers in the workplace health and safety is that there'll be a reduction in accident and injury rate. Full stop. This can be seen where, and we talk about the new factory worker who did not know what to do, who was shouted at, and they say, if this was the opposite, if he was guided, if he was supervised, if he was consulted, then he would not have been under pressure and he would have avoided that accident. And that point is finished. Tell me if you understand. Tell me if you understand the technique. We looked at a lot of we looked at one technique today, but the technique had in it where to get information from. The technique had to get information from you, from your head. Then we also saw, help me with it, people, a place to get information from is the textbook. Then you saw another one. Let me show you the other one. So you just don't go in, let me show you the other one. Again, I'm taking the time to show you, right? Watch, I took my time and I find the PowerPoint. The PowerPoints have some answers. And if you run out of that, go and Google it. I Googled 2 things in front of you all today. I Google using normal Google. And let me see if it's still up. The HSE website is still up here, right? So by the end of that, you have your answers then for any question that you face. The only thing now, you have to go and type back into the passage. And that itself and the type in for me does still take time. That's why for me, when I did it, a question took me an hour. This didn't take the hour. This took the easiest time. Open the book, open the PowerPoint, Google. This took the easiest time. To create the answer sheet took the easiest time. But once I had the answer, no, it was just to formulate it. It was just to say, in my opinion, and then the other hard thing to do was to tie it into the lines. Tell me if you all understand the technique. Tell me if I wasted your time. Tell me if you appreciate the technique. Other than that, I don't have any other secret weapons there, right? Other than starting on time, having a good breakfast. There could be one more secret weapon, but yeah, to be careful with it. Right? Yeah, to be careful with it. Which is be careful with this one. And this one could really mess you up, right? Which is like you could bounce an idea off somebody. But nobody in class, of course, right? I mean, but if you have an educated friend, stressing on educated, if you have an educated friend, and you can ask them, it cannot be anybody in class because you all can't work together, right? You can ask them, like, do you think a benefit of involving workers is that we would have a better reputation or we'll attract more clients? And the person can say, yeah, that kind of makes some sense enough, right? So that's another thing, it's kind of like phone a friend, but make sure you know who you trust and don't let it be anybody in class, of course. But you could read something back to someone. I could read something back to a loved one and ask them, does that sound correct? A benefit of worker involvement. Well, like, I mean, like, suppose a person tell you no, and I listen back to myself, I would say no. But what about worker retention? Worker retention is a good answer, that if workers feel valued, they will not want to go elsewhere, right? So then a benefit of worker involvement is you would have less can I say have less
Turnover, sir.
staff, say it again, less staff turnover then, right? So that's what I'm saying. Is like you could use third party or a friend to listen to your answer. That's like a secret weapon you could use to if you wanted to anyway, right? Folks, we officially finished. I'm gonna call the roll, and that is it for today
So
anyway, right?
so one more question.
Sure. Go ahead.
So when you're quoting something from the, like you want to state something from the passage, you have to put it in inverted commas.
No, you don't. But you could. That's something called direct referencing. But you could also use indirect referencing.
Okay.
You could put it in. It really doesn't matter, right? Like you could say if we go back to that one, if we talk about skill, right? We say in my opinion, this is the first question we had done, right? And so, like in my opinion, um, an individual factor is a lack of skill shown by the new factory worker. First stop. And in the case of this is seen where it was said, so you kind of quote it where it was said, and you can put it in inverted commas if you want. The new factory worker reached into the vessel or was reaching into the vessel. You could end that quote. Or you could just say it as it was seen a new factory worker was reaching into the vessel. It really doesn't matter as long as you make the reference back to the case study. Right? If you are
All right,
quoting
thanks.
the whole line though and not incorporating it, like you can incorporate it into a sentence. But if you're quoting the whole line, you could put it in inverted commas. It really doesn't matter whether or not you do anyway, right? But I would probably tell you to incorporate it as much as you could, because the more you incorporate it, it becomes less plagiarized then. Not too sure if you understand that. I think to understand that what plagiarism is, plagiarism picks up three words in the same sentence. If you code the whole line and somebody code the whole line and somebody code the whole line, it could come as if you're all plagiarizing from each other. Because that's what the software does. If you understand the software, you could beat the software. You could beat the software by incorporating it into your own words. Right? The software picks up like three words in the same sentence. So the one that Aidan said, right? The new factory worker individual factor was that they were fearful. And he said this could be seen where, and you say back in your own words that, right? Supervisor are shouted at the new factory worker and told them, but this piece you could put back, do as you are told, or I would report you to the owner, right? So then he could say this could lead to a sense of fear in the new factory worker, as an individual factor. So like the more you say it in your own words, the better it is that, right? The more you kind of piggyback on this here, it could show up as plagiarism. Right?
All right, thanks.
I am not, but other than next week, right? All my Wednesdays are taken, all my Thursdays are taken. We only have 2 weeks again, right? Sometimes what I do, I come back on a Wednesday to have a passive session, but all my Wednesdays are taken. Wednesdays is oil and gas, Thursdays NIBOSH diploma now. I think I may have the 26th free enough. I may have the 26th free. If I'm free on a Thursday, it would have been nicer just to meet, because the course is finished. When I say meet on Zoom, and kind of just have like one more past paper session. There are many of them on YouTube already, which kind of talks about, like the one I sent you already talks about the same thing. But I guess that would be the week after the mock exam. So it may be good to kind of come and talk to you all about how I thought you all answered that question. To me, after all of this, you shouldn't answer it anywhere else. But and then you all are also having a look at Janelli paper too. So I don't see how anybody could still put it the wrong way then, right? But if that was to happen, and if I'm free on the 26th, if I'm free, because for now on, I don't know if I have anything from now till then, but I have no set class then, or only if it have company training. Today we did company training as well. Confined space was today. But if I have something, I'll let you know. But if I don't have, I could be willing to have a class on the 26th, which is the week after the mock exam. Just in the evening though, it'd be 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock. Just an hour anyway, right? Folks, let me call the roll and we would we would have it out here, maybe, right? All right. Kimberly, Jacob. Robert.
Present.
Okay, thanks very much.